What's up everyone, it's Jonathan here. Welcome back to the channel. Today's video I'm going to be bringing you the story of how Hindenburg Research will be saving the market from Clover Health. How Clover Health is this corrupt and almost fraudulent company that is a danger to the market, and Hindenburg Research is here to save you. That's right, the hypothesis for today's video is Hindenburg Research is here to save the market from Clover Health. In order to test my hypothesis and confirm it or reject it, I'm going to look at three different aspects. Take a look at the video up here if you're interested in more information on Clover Health. But first, I want to thank you for joining me today. If you're new to the channel, I bring market news in context so that you can save time, trade or invest your way, and make money. If you're interested in topics like this, please subscribe to the channel now and activate the notification bell so you can be notified when I release new content. If you're finding this content useful, please activate the like button so that YouTube can distribute this video to a larger audience like yourself. Now let's move on to the video. Clover Health. How the Keenum SPACs lured retail investors into a broken business facing active, undisclosed DoJ investigation. In today's video, I'll bring you Hindenburg's point of view and Clover's point of view, and looking at it through the lens of believability. Because the research report is fairly long, I'll be looking at only three main aspects of the report. I'll be looking at the CEO of Clover Health and his former doings. I'll be looking at the head investor of the SPAC, and I will be looking at this DOJ investigation, or more accurately, a couple of DOJ investigations and the marketing practices that may have led to the DOJ investigations. The first aspect is taking a look at the current CEO of Clover Health and seeing what he has done in the past, and if what he has done in the past is relevant and also problematic. Hindenburg has 3 points about the CEO of Clover Health. First, CarePoint, a hospital system that owned 3 hospitals in the state of New Jersey, was actively engaging in price gouging. Second, that the CEO's contributions to political entities are relevant for Clover Health and relevant for Clover Health investors. Third, that the CEO's former entity, CarePoint, was engaged in siphoning of profits or cash in order for the management company and the CEO himself to make more money. In response to these allegations, Clover Health has a few things to say. First, CarePoint is not Clover Health. CarePoint is a separate entity, a separate company, and therefore has nothing to do with Clover Health. It has different everything. The only thing that's the same is the CEO. Therefore, Clover Health does not comment. Second, about the donation. Clover Health states that the donation happened, it is known, it is not criminal, and he also donates to other things. Third, let's go back to point 1. CarePoint is not Clover Health. That's a quick response. Let me interpret this through believability. Price gouging. I think price gouging is bad. So I went out and I looked. Again, my hypothesis is that Hindenburg is saving us from Clover Health. Let's go look at it. I looked and I found these stories that Hindenburg brings up in the research report. And that's it. That is all I found. I hope to find, in order to prove my hypothesis, that there was data showing here's the median price of these operations, of these procedures. Here's the average, somewhere in the region of the median. And here, on the very high side, is CarePoint, or the hospitals under CarePoint. I could not find this. I do not feel very strongly about the believability of this point. The second point is the political donation. Here I have just one aspect, really. It is not illegal, or for $1 million he would have been in prison already, I assume. Therefore, I also find this to be less than relevant. The third point from Hindenburg about the exorbitant profits that this CarePoint hospital group was taking in through their shell companies and their management fees and all the structuring. I went out, it took me a little bit, but I found the report that was done through the state of New Jersey under the governor. What I found was the report was very displeased with the behaviors of CarePoint and its hospitals. The report also mentioned that the 3 hospitals would have been in bankruptcy, would have been gone, if it wasn't for CarePoint purchasing them out of bankruptcy. Therefore, CarePoint wasn't a completely terrible company. Okay, I mean, still that doesn't make them a good company, right? What I took away from this report is that the medical system in the state of New Jersey and the regulatory environment was probably causing the problems. It was giving the opportunity for companies to take advantage of loopholes, or at least to push boundaries. With this information I found that Hindenburg's focus on this negativity towards the CEO and his past companies is less believable. Therefore, after testing aspect 1, the Hindenburg negativity towards the CEO, I find that the believability favors Clover Health and goes to reject my hypothesis. Let's move on to point 2 and see how my hypothesis fares. Is Hindenburg describes the lead investor of the SPAC that would end up buying Clover Health as misleading, or at least inept. The questions here are, did he know about the DoJ investigations and not report them, or is his due diligence poor and therefore he didn't know? Clover Health responds to this by saying that of course he knew, and all the legal teams, inside counsel, outside counsel, for the SPAC, for Clover Health, they all came to the conclusion that it was immaterial, meaning not relevant to be disclosed to investors, and therefore it wasn't. Period, end of sentence, moving on. That is the response from Clover Health. From a believability standpoint, I find this to be reasonable because Clover Health is in the medical insurance business and they work a lot with government as their customers. For me, this aspect number 2 also goes to reject my hypothesis, and my hypothesis is looking pretty bad at this point. Now let's move on to the third point and see how the active DoJ investigations are or are not an existential risk to the company. Again, here I have 3 points. The first one is that the active DoJ investigations are existential risks to the company. The second point is Hindenburg states that Seek is misleading because they market themselves as independent, working for the senior citizen who's looking for insurance. The third point is that the head of sales is misleading and his related party transactions are actually just corruption. Let's look at these one at a time. Clover Health responds to this existential risk problem by saying that, again, health insurance companies and companies in this space regularly go through DoJ investigations, and they are not existential risks. It's business as normal. It's daily business, so move on. Clover Health says Seek is an affiliate. Yes, it is owned partially by Clover Health, and there are board members that are related to Clover Health, but it is a separate company with separate goals. It's a startup doing their own thing. The evidence is that the most frequently sold plans on Seek are not Clover Health. Clover Health finishes in the top 10, but not in the top 5. To the third question about the head of sales being inappropriately linked to related parties and being an owner of a dealer of health insurance policies, Clover Health goes on to say that this is appropriately disclosed there, followed the rules. He does not actively engage in business if he is working with Clover Health, or if the company is working with Clover Health. Hindenburg Research tries to make the point that Clover Health and the head of sales were trying to hide things by putting the dealership business, the insurance dealership business, in the name of his wife, and also the maiden name of his wife. Clover Health says this is not at all the case, and they reference the head of sales medical history. They also say that the dots that were connected don't go together. They say that Hindenburg is connecting ownership with being an agent, and these have nothing to do with each other. Asking the question, who is more believable? Is the DoJ investigation an existential risk or not? I tend to believe that it is not an existential risk because Clover Health brings up that they frequently receive requests from the DoJ, and Hindenburg does not mention anything about this. They also don't bring up any comparison to other insurance companies to state if this is frequent or not frequent, or if Clover receives more requests than others. Looking at Seek, it seems to me that this is sort of a wash. I find the answers from Clover Health to be a bit weak, to be honest. If they report in their financials as being a subsidiary and then called an affiliate, and they sort of try to explain away the control, it doesn't hold a lot of water for me, but I also don't think it's the end of the world because they do have this sales number, and unless that's just fabricated, it shows that they also recommend other plans and also sell other plans. Therefore, if I don't believe the first part of the explanation, I do believe the second part of the explanation. And I don't really believe Hindenburg in this situation. Looking at the head of sales, I don't know if they appropriately disclosed everything or not. It would seem so, and it would also seem that the amount received from this dealership that he owns but does not actively participate in when it's dealing with Clover is not all that material. Right, so there we have it. I've walked through the three aspects. I've looked at it from the perspective, the lens of believability. I've looked at the CEO and what are the implications of the CEO, what are the implications of the lead investor in this SPAC, and what are the implications of the DoJ investigations. The conclusion I've come to is that the Hindenburg Research report is not all that believable. Therefore, the three aspects that I tested go to reject my hypothesis. The conclusion I draw from this is that the Hindenburg Research report is not a public service that they say it is, and I'll let you decide what you think it is. Do you agree with me, or do you have anything else to add? Thank you for stopping by today, and I'll see you next time.